Welcome to Dungeon Master, where today we go to the sacred dungeons of Rygar. First, we must watch this computer commercial and buy everything they have. Rygar, Dungeon Master 27 backwards 73. That's 37 backwards. I don't even know if that's a backwards number to go backwards. How do you go backwards? 36 from 37 is backwards. And so we have the wonderful quest before us to tide the seasons and how we get by in life by using a giant mace to throw at everyone in our path, and those spiny orchids and those treacherous Gouda bombs will be taken care of by this great figure who is the most heroic of all Nintendo players. That we just found out that she's on level 1, and this is the very beginning of the game, really excites me because that means we can do a deep dive into Rygar, and the only thing we're missing is that classy music of theirs, and I apologize. The Rygar soundtrack was not available for my use. I've used so many songs and dances and everything that we will go to the music land and find music for this in a moment. But the problem is I can't even barely find my own copyright to things, and I don't know what I've done with it. I placed it in a faraway hole somewhere for someone to go find. And boy, was it raunchy of me to hide them away in a place that is not able to make any sense out of it. So we talk to the genie, and that's how we move on in Rygar. We make it really far. We talk to the genie in Rygar, and that he is the man when he finds out news like that, and he's on the trees, and you have to be careful on the trees because you can get a splitty splat off of them. He can make that jump though. Now, Rygar, you shouldn't worry about him too much because he can take on the dizzy doodles of this network, of this actual bunch of fighters that are coming towards him like the lizard people always do. He seems to be taking very comfortable care of making sure that all of them are destroyed before he moves on. And that if all your enemies are destroyed before you move on, it just gives you a better feeling that you got all the enemies you had to and killed them all. I mean, you'll have a better feeling from killing your enemies, really. This is the part of the movie that I was directing, and I told Rygar to just play it out, just play the whole game out, just go, go, go. Like we're on a time scale where we need Rygar to play the whole game out, and that's just one of the exciting things of yesterday's modules of greatness, is that we can actually thrive on this Rygar setting and get through this dungeon together, and guess what? There may be a level up later. If we play Rygar long enough, we can get a level up here. And I know you at home are going, well, it's episode 73. I'd hope there was going to be a level up by now, and that there's one grand dungeon in which you experience them all is kind of funny because it ends up being the long dungeon. The long dungeon, although there are Dungeons and Dragons games that have gone on for years, there's one still going on that's been going on for 15 years. And some disputes that were never come across of in Amsterdam, for instance, were never let go, but were never let seized as a kind of ideal way to practice other forms of marijuana use. But I love marijuana. Marijuana is what makes my day and makes my ashtray, and I don't care if I have to play Rygar till the end of the next millennia. It is a cool game. Nothing's going to stop me now. I'm going for it. Yeah. And here's an uncharted desert that we have not seen, but a treasure chest upon which it gleams. I'm not quite sure if we are going to make it. This game seems so hard. It's like I'm putting my all into it, but only the computer's carrying me through, and that it's not a computer, it's actual gameplay. Or it could be an AI bot. Actual gameplay on a game machine is an AI bot, usually. Alright, we'll talk about that later, but while they could have been grappling weapons, which will help you complete your quest. Thank you, other genie man. Why he doesn't have a shirt on, it probably has something to do with his culture. I'm not going to bag other people's culture. We're just getting started on Rygar. We're going to see if Rygar goes north or south, because he basically just whipped a bunch of dudes into shape. Now he's going some other direction. It's like, will Rygar ever learn that he's gone the wrong way, and he's gone there already? And I think it's just quite fascinating that all of this builds up into the great Rygar cartoon movie that we've got now. It's based on the clips of the video game, making it cartoon-like, even though it's so easy to watch with its flowing graphics and its up-to-date sound, and that we lost the sound and the graphics still look great, but a lot of things have happened in graphics since I've been around, and I've never been able to catch up with them. So we deal with the golden era of video game making, the Nintendo Entertainment System, which they said they had Duck Hunt in 1935. That means we're 40 years behind the Japanese technology, which makes about as much sense as the trading agreement that was 40 years off. Now, these are gargoyles. And these gargoyles are flying everywhere, and they're trying to knock down, you guessed it, Rygar. And he's totally still swinging his mace with confidence. His mace got, level up, and now we're seeing things in this game we've never seen before. And if we have, it's been a long time, hasn't it, since we've even remembered the wild gaming that this was. That it looks like we're zoomed in, and we're not. We're just holding the mirror lamp out by the sea window of the yellow submarine we're on, which is actually the Pequod, which is actually the Argus. And it's all one ship of mythology that carries us through to the next mythology, and sees it that every mythology is totally for man's use and man's building of a language. The mythology is mostly used for building a language. Did you know that? For definitions of what kind of complexes come from psychoanalyzing the old scripts of the olden days, like Homer's Odyssey, for instance. Buy that now. Okay. Well, I told you, friends and family, this is the dungeon that separates the men from the boys. Yes, we go headlong into this fantasy land. And what does it bring us? A need to destroy vampire bats on a wall? They could have been nice to him, and they wanted to tromp him down. I thought they were kind of young. But that Rygar's quite a champion of the day. Now, he did that a lot easier than I did. You must meet Indras to reach the castle. Indoras? 5 Indoras? All right, let's go find the Indoras. Are those Indoras? Those 2. No, there's one up there. Find all 5. I might be backtracking. I don't know. And backtracking we must go. If it is backtracking, then we'll know. And I want you to know that this is by far the most interesting thing I've seen in a while, is these vampire bats just getting knocked out of the sky. Rygar with his rope trick. If he needed a rope, why does he have his own? Can he die by touching the water of the gargoyles? Yes, he doesn't want to fall in. The last thing he wants to do is fall in. It's instant death. There's so many death penalties on these games. Instant death to fall in. But he can torch out some gargoyles pretty fast with that new mace. Did anyone see him get the new mace back there when we were still in training grounds? Rygar and are now fully fledged in the game and knocking birds out of the sky? It's not the birds, it's the bats. Maybe he can find another. Indora. Where are your Indoras? Check the top for an Indora. I think you'd better be careful making those leaps and bounds across those. So that's the only way across. Well, if you didn't find it out on the high ground. That's interesting. You know the high ground is an advantage. You know, if I was on the high ground, you would never be able to take me. You would jump and miss, and I'd still be on the high ground. Take my hand, Luke. Or, sorry, take my hand, Obi-Wan. Oh, no, 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 no. Take my hand, Anakin Skywalker. This is your last chance. I've got the high ground. You were supposed to bring order, balance and order to the Force, not to destroy it. And that's where we get taxed by a certain company that runs this whole program. We thank to the sponsors. The Wizards of the Coast, I haven't thanked enough for their skill and shinery and kind of feeling for me along the way, and that they've been so excited about future Wizards of the Coast projects I'm going to be working on, even beside the Dungeon Master, who is already in his long-awaited return to the Shire. He's going to have to fight through the last 20 levels in just about 15 levels, and it's going to get real intense, and it already is with this Rygar. But see, the Wizards of the Coast, they know I can play AD&D really well. I turned in all my games. There's a lot of them, over 100. They know that I play D&D very well because I'm one of the only people that knows how to play it, and it's really just following along with the rules of the game that come with it. And then there's Pokemon that I'm a challenger at, but let's face it, Magic the Gathering is Wizards of the Coast, and I'd like to do something for them, like Magic the Gathering, kind of hold a tournament and see what skills of cards do what, and I've already pretty much figured that game out. To Magic the Gathering, that if you tap a creature that goes for a long tap, you can build them up to a really big dragon, for instance, if the card you're tapping stays tapped the amount of times that it needs to stay tapped. Then it can be in action for how many rounds it says on the card, and if it says how many rounds it can be there, inflicting a certain amount of damage, you should be able to beat Magic the Gathering. But that Wizards of the Coast, you have to be a sorcerer, like a philosophy professor, or you have to be, and that's one requirement, you have to be good at a lot of games, particularly role-playing games, and the ones that strategize off of AD&D, which is all of them. You have to be like proficient at having a text game that's role-playing, and having built text games like they're role-playing, they like that. Well, you have to beat around with the Wizards of the Coast in general if you fought hard enough, and they felt that Dungeon Master, my old series, was enough to get by with Dungeon Master, the new series. And Dungeon Master, the new series, is every bit as Wizards of the Coast as the Wizards of the Coast came to spank me for making Dungeon Master. I used a holy hand grenade to defeat them. So I defeated the Wizards of the Coast. They came back to life, whatever. Phoenix down, you know. Use a Phoenix down if you go. And this Rygar game, he hasn't died at all, and I'm just so proud that he is going so deep in and showing us the ins and outs of this really interesting video game. I mean, it doesn't get old. I mean, it's the same kind of guys over and over, but that's just because when you find out you're good at something, you keep doing it. And besides, here's a boss battle, and if we don't win this boss battle soon, we won't remember that we were good at this game as kids. That we're good at this game as kids is totally coming a totally ribalding surprise. And I don't think that any of us are going to give up fighting the enemy just because he shoots fire at us. In every challenging way, we have to... Oh, this is really scary. Will our Dungeon Master succeed? He just did. Good job, Dungeon Master. Level up, everyone. Level up. So we've now leveled up to the realm of 68. And there's no low number anymore. There's finally at 69, all the levels have merged. and we've gained 2 levels, 3 extra points in integrity, 4 extra points in stature and wellness. Keep track of this, Dungeon Masters, on a notebook. Your notebook's as torn up and full as mine, but get this. Dexterity plus 3 extra advantage. And sensibility plus 5. Magic points times 20%. Hit points times 15%. It was a big level up because we thought we were going to be locked in that battle for a lot longer. And we thought we'd be following the trail of Rygar so far and then leaving him, but we're going to go as far as he goes. We're going to see as far as he sees. And we're going to get there, I swear, even if we have to talk about the new book that's out. No, don't want to talk about that. There's some really interesting things going on with books right now that are online and how they're all kind of getting together with the right kind of books online. And I'm just really excited about everything that this company puts out. But Wizards of the Coast, we got to take them real seriously, and we analyze dungeons. Now, if I were to analyze this dungeon, it'd look pretty difficult, man, because it's built correctly and all the things are to size, and topographical sometimes is the way to go, and sometimes a side by side. That it looks more difficult, and really is more difficult if you're not used to playing it. And obviously, either the computer routed it through or someone really good at it is debugging it, probably both. They probably have to debug it while routing it through the best AI. I don't really know how that works completely. I do know that AI is one of those things that works in patterns. So if there was like a quantum physics pattern that you had to emerge, and you do in those, not only coding, but like coloring these video games on a color sensor, or like a code of where you get your color, and then it all becomes this quantum nonsense. And really, I would just avoid rationalizing it all too much, because then I'll go back to my special effects class and realize I need to teach them more special effects and how to make them. So we're going to talk about King Kong in Masterclass, and I know you love books, and I'm not going to talk about my book right now, because books, that's all I hear is books. You know, if you want to hear this whole story of how I got suspended by not reading all the film books there are by Javier, was the only thing he questioned me on, is how I hadn't read them all, but I'd almost read them all, but I hadn't read them all, but I'd almost read them all. Story of my frickin' life. And it's the story of Rygar's life, too, because Rygar takes pain for the field, and he's in the bowels of Sheol, and he's going to crack some skulls. He's going to crack some skulls and smash up other bugs. And it looks like he's fighting the bugs from Naked Lunch. Jeez, Rygar, you're in Naked Lunch again? I thought I told you to put down that book. And if I find you with the Marquis de Sade again, I'm going to take away your whip for you being violent, bro. I swear, these video games, they put me in a world. They put me in a world on fire where I see everything before me, and I loom for everything before me. And this is where it all comes to pass, whether or not the YouTube creators can find a way to help us and get us this footage of Rygar that's coming off of YouTube. And our masterclass finds things and whips things out when we need them, but Rygar's prepared that he will go any length of a distance to find shell nor shore, and he will get rid of the shells in front of him. Now, I have to admit, this would be interesting if this had sound. So, who votes we go to the turntable and try and get something in? No one? No one wants to go to the turntable and hear some music. They think I might not have copyright to my own work, which is beginning to look like that, although it really doesn't matter because all of my copyrights are hidden in a box in a vault somewhere, underground layers and whatnot. That, by the way, you must run with all your might to the end of the tunnel. And now there's a commercial that looks like a live-action version of Rygar in a weird way. All right. Well, continue straight in the top cave to see the sunset. I want to see the sunset. Let's see if the top cave gives us the sunset. The top cave to see the sunset? That must be how to get out of here. It's a good thing we talked to him. That was well over the peril we were in to talk to him. And well over the peril we shall be. And well over the peril we shall be. Welcome, take a rest to regain your strength. Take a rest, bro. Oh, he's all good. He's got his strength back. Oh, he's just like a tiger. He's a fighting tiger. And nothing's gonna stop us now. Nothing's gonna stop us now. It sure is lonely in here with about a lot of naked lunch creatures coming at me. I guess I could shoot at them and wonder if they used the same programmer for Metroid, because it's like launching those little Metroid bullets everywhere, you know. You just blow up these shell suckers or whatever, sucker shells or whatever they are. You can't really eat those sucker shells for breakfast. They aren't kosher or anything. They'll give you a real bad stomachache. I wouldn't even mix it. I wouldn't mix it in a million years. You gotta be cool about that. And that's why... Oh, darn, Dungeon Master. For the first time in this whole game, you lost your train of thought. We've got to skip back to the notes. The notes, quickly. Oh, yes, and in the year of Rygar, we came to the cave that seemed to be the longest, and we were stuck in the cave that seemed to be the longest. Insert tape B. So when we got through that cave, we had to fight a lot of shelled creatures, but it seemed like we were stuck fighting shelled creatures only because we were in some kind of a collection of hearts, and that means that something is really sticking here in the game, and now we're following this guy. Maybe this wasn't a computer. These movements are too erratic, unless the computer was programming this movie, as though it's not the movie we're programming, right? We're programming the comings up, but look at all this. We have a head. Are you willing to stay in there with me, Rygar fans? Can we see the end of the light, or the light of the end? Will it be upon us to take the scour into our hands, or hands into our scour? Or can we foolishly trip the light fantastic and go upon our reverie board ships of everything that gets us through the second day? And the second day will be there, and the second day is upon us, and I feel as though this game has a responsibility to take us all the way through. Because I've seen the coming of the Empire, I've seen the coming of the levels of this. This is not one that I'd seen, and not one that I'd guess was even halfway there. But what you're going to watch is whether the Dungeon Master gets us out of the screen before we finish the artwork that is the cartoon that is the Rygar Full Mission game. And the Rygar Full Mission game has taught us many tips and tricks just by watching it. We can use the rope just about anywhere. See, right there. Now he's on the... Did he see the sunset without me seeing it? Dang it. Wizards of the Coast are going to dock me my dungeon mastering on that. I hope I didn't lose a place in the guild. I didn't. Oh, you stay at where you're at until you move up. Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, guild me away from any promotions too soon, for I am still a weak Wizard of the Coast, though I parlay sorcery in the times of the magic lantern, of the magic that was in the magi, that had to be magenta and was able to use magic, okay? It's not like it's an ability you don't want to have if you're sequestering all your PhDs for as long as you can. That you have them, you know you do, but that others want them worse is a strange crime against getting them. And I don't know if someone would want them worse that doesn't have them. but I cannot be of an ego tripper, because dungeon masters must believe in the Bible, where it says don't have an ego. And it's usually to oppress you to not have an ego. But if you do have too big of an ego, it could turn into one of those Oedipus projection type things, and you fall into the trail of the evil oracle that was meant for you to, you know. I won't talk about what it was meant to happen in the Oedipal syndrome, but if you're following me so far, you might know where some ego and megalomaniac and narcissism could lead, but a little bit of lack of humility never had to anybody that was doing good. And that spider just got creamed. No level up. We would have. Oh, it's an Indora. How far we've come in this mixed up management of time and locus and strategy. And fear not, for we might have the road ahead be the road behind. And if the road ahead is the road behind, then the road behind is behind the road ahead. And the road ahead is not behind the road behind. So forget the road behind, because it was such a long way to the road ahead. And really, we could look at this and be like, well, we do have the power to go on through this, and availability to think in these terms of these dungeon master outlets, and that there's the water next to this. But that is going to go dungeon to dungeon in this. It's so dark and dank, and that they're even selling commercials for this is already cheering me up, because that means even the episode we're watching and somewhat bootlegging, although this isn't a bootleg, this is a dry run of a show that we're still trying to perfect, called Dungeon Master, where we take clips and sounds from all kinds of pop culture media and stir it in and call it Dungeon Master and weave our way through it. We do. And it's interactive, because you don't know that you have to play them all and that you're playing them. It's because you're watching, and watching a movement on a screen is about which way you think the movement's going to go. And it's interactive, not so much in a button-pressing multimedia, but it's interactive in the fact that it all works with Dungeon Master rules. And the Dungeon Master rules are for AD&D, and the Magic the Gathering rules are used in the other places. And this is a rule that's never been used, climbing on the wall and destroying people. But you do this in Super Mario World, where you bang on the cages. This is a wild drop of some witches that are following. Those are actually armadillos, and the armadillos in the Rygar world are so beseeching the evil. So beseechingly evil. So, I'm starting to get this weird feeling that some of you sitting around playing Dungeon Master are thinking, well, Rygar would really look cool at the end, and I'd like to tell my friends I saw Rygar all the way through the end. Just for once on Dungeon Master, we saw something through to the end, but we've seen them through to the end before. Oh, yes, we have. We just don't remember which one we stocked with all the way through. That we've looked at the ending of a lot of them is not the point. That I don't know if this guy's really walking upside down or walking on air or walking on his own 2 feet, but Rygar's really got the upper hand right now. I mean, it's because he's got the high ground, and the high ground always determines it, that you're going to lose against the high ground. I mean, you were the chosen one, And now he's walking up here, and he's walking back down. This is the most strategic part of the game, where you have to walk up and walk down. And then he's been walking up and walking down for a number of years, practically. And we've seen this scene for the last 3 years is not that bad. But that if we skip anything, we'll be erratic in the performance of what otherwise could be a full game of Rygar. And if we were to burn the intellectual world with a full game of Rygar, we would be traveling to the universe's core text of everything that is and isn't swallowed in the handbeat of a Locaria. And I think it's interesting that you want to go all the way to the last of the Dungeon Masters and see how we get by in each universe and see how the Wizards of the Coast have helped us tie together. And YouTube creators always doing wonderful things for us. We can't thank them enough for loving our crazy input to the media. And that we sail along these seas with a mirror lamp at our window so we may adjust to whatever dungeon mode we are in. This happens to be a monster battle that's going repeatedly on, so that normally he won't get ran over, and because after a certain number beat, there is also health that you can pick up from them. But that he's going back and forth, killing these animals, means something quite strange inside him snapped, and now he's killing even animals that were not necessary to kill, but that they all attack him if they want to. Then I guess they are necessary to kill. What do you think, Rygar? Oh, I just killed a bunch of those armadillos and gargoyle things. Thank you, Rygar, for your added support. And I like that you have all this strength since the beginning. And we've come a long way, Rygar. But can you take us the rest of the way there? Or is it going to become this monster pit through the whole thing? And where was the timeline on that? So you see that he's in this for a while means we'd almost want to skip ahead, but that skipping ahead just so seems to throw us off. But how many people does he have to kill on this bridge until he sees what he's looking for? But we're back and forth. See, because now, that was a technical difficulty. Technical difficulty. Insert side B to correct technical difficulty, side C. Next tape, please. Next tape, please. No, we're still on Dungeon Master 73. Now, that was a good turnover of the tape, and we should be there. Looking at these beginning levels, I'm starting to think that they were as interactive as your eyes are interactive on this part. But if we look ahead, we see just as tedious romanticism for all the things we've got to face. But if anything had to be moored in, it wasn't this fleshly contagion of all of these dying creatures that have to go at the hand of the torch. I feel as though we've seen something ahead, but we haven't traversed the right attitude for it yet, that we've gotten quite tedious in this dungeon with killing monsters, and I think that's just one of those things that can happen in a dungeon. You can run into tons of the monsters that you've created. And the architecture is usually how the wall meets the door and how the dungeon maps the floor and how the pillars and everything in this are making it up for it. And you have to kind of know these production design techniques and how to build a dungeon, like actually topographically and or an actual small-scale model of a dungeon is the only way to build a dungeon necessary for Dungeon Master. And then it gets built into a game that it was once claymation. I can't always prove, but somewhere deep down they're saying my claymation is groovy. And really, my cartoons aren't too bad either. When you get down to it, a cartoon, it's just nothing but your favorite video games all day long. And to hear me swath about the video game and tell you all its excitement and tell you all to hang on for 25 minutes, because we're starting to get into new terrain here, and this is getting real special real quick. And that he hasn't found what he's looking for is so obvious. But that we have a commercial is a good effect for now, that we still have a long haul ahead, and we haven't lost any time. We've still been only from the beginning of Rygar, which none of us knew that it was that long, that it was that short or that long of a game. Defeating Alagar. Well, we can't rewind it, right? If we did, we'd botch it all up. No rewind this time. Defeat Alagar. Well, that could be a tempestuous mission, couldn't it now? I don't seem to be the one to defeat Alagar just because Gypsy Man says it. Doesn't he need a shirt to defeat Elgar? Jeez, those guys got the shirts, they creep me out. I don't know if they just came from the bathhouse or what, but I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just like, get your shirt on, Gypsy. And then I feel bad because most gypsies can't afford shirts and have to steal them to get them. And so he wasn't in a stealing mood, doesn't have a shirt. We're all right. All right. Now we come to the door of epic travels, where the gypsy without a shirt has a big beard to keep himself warm, and that he needs the coat of arms, is already a spectacle to behold. And what will become of Rygar? And what will his feelings surpass? And what would the things that Rygar take with him that will last? What if he's gotten down enemies and chopped them all at the hilt? And what if it's just a pleasant way that Rygar's overbuilt? And what about these questions? What about this tomorrow? What about only 20 minutes and youth has the sorrow? But look, it's 24 minutes until we clear it up. And everyone we know will be drinking through the cup, and that seems as though we might go off in the diatribe that we might not get the Rygar we want if we do not go inside, and that we're trapped inside this maze like a bunch of loonies still. Doesn't matter really, because we know we always will. And if we don't finish Rygar, that's one thing that will abide, is that we made it as far as we could, and we made it because we tried. Now, I don't think it was a bad idea to see this guru lost, but does that mean we need to speed up everything it cost? And I don't really think we've lifted too much from this game except the whole heart of it, and that's kind of lame. But like we see it before us that there's 20 minutes left to record, but the technical difficulties have sunk in to a T here. I mean, if we really think we're going to get past another 10 minutes of this game, we're going to have to be running in on a Rodan, because we don't want... Do we want spoilers? Do we want to get closer to the end? Do we want to drop it down? Well, as much as I say some of these levels look too cool to surpass, well, we're going to one. We're finally interactivating because the audience wanted closer to the end before the technical difficulties lapse in and before the madness of having no music totally takes over our head and makes us make music in the background just as though it's there. Only this time it's not Pretty Hate Machine, which is still unlicensed to us, but we don't use it for Rygar, because to use those violently swinging maces and the violence of Nine Inch Nails being violent in and of themselves, well, we now know not to mess with Nine Inch Nails unless we're really ready, and Rygar would really mess with it. So we're in this new level, and we're dropping bombs on everyone, and that's like a centipede. Maybe that's the oligarch that that guy's supposed to beat, but really he can get to the top of the... Oh, a shield, you gotta have a shield. A shield, you gotta have a shield. Okay, so that was like one example of the land ahead. And we don't need to take you through to all the lakes and boundaries and everything, but we do want to drop you right closely. Oh, commercial. Oh, technical difficulties. Okay. Did we get anywhere else that we needed to see on this plan of Rygar? Well, let's see if we can finish it out. I saw some mountains back there and some lakes back there that looked like were good for you to traverse if you play this game. And that we've already arbitrarily become a feature this episode because we've just hit the 40-minute mark. Now, I'm not trying to stop there, but I do know there's a whole assailment of battery power that is dropping by the instant and is going to team me out of here if I don't make some changes to the ending. And so that we have 10 minutes to get to the end is already stalling us in getting back to reading a book I just put out, which I'm not going to talk about right now because it's my follow-up to some other projects, and I wanted everybody to enjoy it. I wanted everybody to really like it. But here we are, 40 minutes into the game. No, actually, we jumped around on the game. Yeah, we jumped the record needle on the game. We took it to a different place. But that we're so far close to the end doesn't mean we don't have to rush the battery power. So, making the decision that I have to make, I'm going to press on in these buttons and see if there come now the faction that was in my mind in Dora's to see the castle. Well, we're going in the castle. We're going in the castle and we don't even care. Because we're worried that, like, the battery has somehow seeped out in our long adventure of Rygar, and that we could have had, like, this hour-long vintage kind of movie that just sailed through it all, and that would have been so beautiful. But with Rygar, you really got to take it all the way to the head when you're ready for it, because that guy that's blasting out the bats and everything is an eternal soldier. He never dies. And here Rygar is in the middle of this use and dungeon master, and here we are at the castle, and we know the time meter crunches, and we know the time meter's crunching, and all we can do is fast forward even farther to paradise. Paradise is at that door. That is the meaning of Rygar. And that rainbow. And so these are some spoilers as to what we might see at the end of the game, which was all worth it. And we didn't get to see it all. And like in Dungeon Master Honor, we gained a level. And we love Dungeon Master. And if you roll a 3, then you can find this on the internet right here. Go back to it and see the scenes you missed, because they were picturesque. The door of peace was open, and peace did again come to Argor. People regained their smiling faces. The warrior who finishes his right returned to arms. The warrior of Argus, you're really a true zero. See, I said it was Homer's The Odyssey, did I not? And cut.